Hello and welcome to Fine is a Four-Letter Word. My guest today is Jess Lilly, and Jess and I met through the coolest, I don't know what to call it, application, the coolest way possible. It's this program called lunchclub.ai. I'm not an affiliate. I'm not promoting it. I am promoting it, but I don't get paid to promote it. But Jess was my very first matchup on Lunch Club, and then we just stayed connecting. Welcome, Jess.
Thank you for having me, Lori. Yeah, I love that we met on Lunch Club, and I love that I get to be on your podcast because one of the things I remember from our very first meeting is that you introduced me to just how simple and painless it can be to get on a podcast and actually just start being heard and using my voice. And at the time, I was so hesitant to just jump in, and you inspired me and you catalyzed me. So this is very meaningful to me that I am actually on your podcast.
Thank you. That's awesome. Yeah. And really, I mean, it's just a conversation. We're just having a conversation for the world to hear, but still,
yeah.
No pressure.
Still just a fun opportunity to talk to Lori, and other people get to hear it too.
Yeah.
They're so lucky.
You're right. So let's start out with the question that I like to start with, which is, what were the beliefs and values that were instilled in you as you were growing up that have affected you as you've become an adult?
This is such a great question. So some of the beliefs, it's interesting because I think I had a couple of conflicting beliefs instilled in me. I'm kind of a believer that, generation to generation, people pass the baton. Like, they do their work. Like, so my grandmother and my grandparents' generation, they did their work, and they did everything that they could to move the ball on our family. And then they hand the baton down. And then my mom and dad do their work, and then they hand the baton down. So it's interesting because I received, some super empowering beliefs. I received some disempowering beliefs, but I just wouldn't have it any other way because it all came together for my, my own journey. But one of the beliefs that I was instilled in me by my father is that my sensitivity is a strength.
Oh, that's cool.
I didn't believe him at first. I really was super enrolled in the kind of patriarchal, I was kind of convinced by a lot of external things that, the fact that I'm a very sensitive, highly emotionally intelligent, empathetic, cry on a dime kind of person, big heart, big tender heart. And I kind of made myself wrong for that because I felt way more deeply than other people, the people around me. Things that didn't affect other people deeply affected me. I could feel other people's feelings, just being in their space. And I really believed that meant there was something wrong with me. So I had this kind of there's something wrong with me belief, just inherently there's something wrong with me. But I also had this belief of my sensitivity is my strength. And I had this underlying knowing that I am going to be able to use this. I don't know how. I am a part of my purpose on the planet is using my innate sensitivity and gifts and this nowadays I call it I'm a hardball. So my hardballiness, my heart-centered leadershipness. And so that's really one of the beliefs that he passed to me because he's totally a sensitive hardball type, very, that's totally him. And he made it clear to me that he values that in me. And
that's really interesting that you felt that it's a liability, though, because other people could feel that they're being the opposite of that, maybe not feeling or not being able to understand other people's feelings would be a deficit on their part. So everybody all around is feeling there's something wrong with me.
That's
when there's
so
nothing.
True. Well, and it's so funny because it also, you're pointing to the fact that, I feel like there's this stage in development where you just want to belong and you just want to conform and just be like everybody else. And there's this natural progression of, no, I want to be fully myself and authentic and be distinct and individuate and just be fully me. where you get to embrace all these differences that you might have or special gifts. But so that was really that whole journey around my relationship to my sensitivity and my being and my authentic self, I think has been just, it got catalyzed from that kind of conversation from a very, very young age. And then there's this other conversation that, I'll attribute to, I loved my grandmother, my Grandma Shirley. And she also had a ton of disempowering beliefs that she trained me in because she wanted me to be safe. So she's this, grew up on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, Jewish immigrant experience, had a lot of fear in her space in general, a very hard upbringing, all that stuff. And so she passed on stories to me for the explicit purpose for me to be safe and okay. Mm-hmm. But the stories were, you need a man to take care of you. Don't be fat.
Wow.
Just don't she was constantly monitoring how's the figure? Is it good? Is it bad? What does she look like?
I love the accent.
Oh yeah. She's Grandma Shirley is like a heavy hitter with the accent. She's like, so she just had this, and I learned it. Yes, there was some explicit training in that, from my grandmother of Jessie, are you happy? I'm like, yes, Grandma, I am happy. No, you're not happy. You don't have a boyfriend. When are you going to have a boyfriend? She just wouldn't believe that I, being a single person, was also happy and fulfilled.
Right.
But the place that I learned all that stuff, the kind of disempowered feminine perspective, that kind of please someone rescue me. I learned that mostly from what she modeled and how she spoke about herself.
Of course, and I think that's how a lot of us learn, not necessarily through what is actually said, but what we're watching.
Yes. And it's really interesting because my grandmother again, I just loved her. She was super dysfunctional, but she had I feel so much affinity toward her. I have a picture of me and her in my living room, and I think about her all the time. Because I feel like she and I were cut from the same cloth, but I had the tools and opportunities that I had, and she just didn't have those. Right. And so, I have no doubt that, sometimes I think about, if she were born, if for whatever reason, some funny universe existed where me and my grandma both lived in this generation together, we would have started a podcast together. She's hilarious, and she was hilarious and witty and spicy and strong and all this stuff, but never believed it about herself. Mm-hmm. And she would always say, Jessie, you should be a comedian. That was a big thing. She always said I should be a comedian. Jessie, you're so funny. You should be a comedian. And, she just really believed in me on a lot of levels. She really believed in me and loved that I was taking my own path. But at the same time, she just really wished that I would be safe, and in her mind, safe is being taken care of by a man, and that's just how her belief system was. I also really wish that she had lived to be able to watch Marvelous Miss Maisel, that show about the Jewish, female comedian, because it really would have blown her. It would have blown her away. We would have had a ball. So on a certain level, I'm like, Grandma Shirley, I hope that your spirit has the opportunity to watch that show somehow. Mm-hmm. Love you. But she shaped a lot of how I viewed myself in the world. And she inspires me now to continuously, voraciously heal wounds, change the story and the pattern, and do my work to pass on.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you recognize the qualities that why she was empowering you in the way, or disempowering you in the way that she was, and that you don't find fault with her for doing that, because of course that was where she came from. That's what she knew, and she was doing it out of love.
Yeah.
But at the same time, now you recognize the work that you need to do or have done. Tell me more about that, the work that you have done to get to the place where you are now.
Yeah, it's so amazing you just asked that question, because the thing that was on my mind when you were speaking was just what a huge transformational gift coaching has been for me. So loved my therapeutic journey. So I'll kind of back up. So I'm very lucky. I was raised in a Jewish home, where therapy was not, it wasn't seen as something bad or wrong or something, it was,
yeah, it was perfectly fine, except perfectly fine.
Yeah,
fine.
Perfectly fine.
It was fine.
Yeah, fine. For the word fine is fine.
No, it was
and
accepted.
Well, actually, it was accepted. And it's funny that you call it fine, because it was fine. So therapy for me was fine. I did a ton of work around my, I had really low self-esteem, and, I had a lot of symptoms of depression and anxiety. Some of it was very much like, a biological thing. Some of it was circumstantial. But what happened was, in my 20s, I hit a wall with therapy where I was like, I'm pretty sure I can be more alive than I currently am. And I've been in I've paid for a lot of therapy. I've been 10 years of therapy. And I think that I can be more alive and vital and full of joy than I currently am. And I'm in this loop of believing that my depression and my anxiety are who I am, and that they are my limiting factors. And that's when I just am super... The timing was very serendipitous, that I was introduced to certain role models who are all coaches, including the coach that I ended up hiring, this awesome coach, Laura Westman. Look her up. She's great. Still my coach. I met her, and I was introduced to the conversation around coaching, which is about, hey, yes, address your mental health stuff for sure. Hey,
sure.
Yeah, totally. Heal your trauma. Do all that stuff. And there's another conversation that you can be in about your greatness and your purpose on the planet, and taking action to get what you want, and taking your power back from the crap that you've given your power away to. You have more power than you think. And of course, when I first met this person, I was in such a victim mentality. Felt very sorry for myself. I felt super trapped by depression and these limiting stories about myself and what I'm capable of. Given what I'm like, big air quotes. And so I started this coaching journey. And one of the really cool aspects of coaching is that you learn through really cool conversations and really special relationships, you learn how to not take your stuff or other people's stuff personally. I'm able to really look and say, hey, who I truly am, I am authenticity and joy. I am empathy, love. I'm all these qualities and these gifts and these ways of being. And I'm a human being, so I have a survival mechanism. I have these automatic fear-based ways of moving around the world to protect myself. And those things are not who I am. Those are the things I do to stay safe when I'm threatened or insecure or whatever. And so the more that I worked on my own, seeing my own stuff that way, and more identifying with what I would call your essence, which is kind of the language we use in the coach training program, accomplishment coaching, that I'm involved with. The more I saw myself as my essence and less identified with my fear, I was able to also offer that to other people. And so huge when it comes to, especially with family relationships, because family relationships have that special way of getting under your skin like other people can't,
Right. They know what buttons to push.
But it's a total, it's total freedom to be able to say, oh, that actually wasn't about me. I stepped in something with this person. That's because they were really scared by whatever was going on between us. And it's not about my worthiness. It's not about whether or not they love me. It's about where they are and what they are experiencing, and that's okay.
Yeah, I love that you just made the distinction between coaching and therapy.
Oh, I'm
for one
so
thing.
Passionate about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And they both have a place, but it's a different place. and they're going to help you accomplish different things. And
Yeah,
they're like two different cars on a road. So
they're like two different cars on the road. And just to give you an example, because people often, there's a lot of nuance there. And so something I'm really passionate about is educating people about what the distinctions are, even when there's nuance. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I did with my coach in the past few years is I rehired her to say, hey, what we're going to work on together is my relationship to my depression and my mental health. We can't address the depression together because I'm going to go do that in therapy. I'm going to go do that over here with a licensed healing professional. But what you and I are going to do is we're going to look at what's my vision for myself and how do I incorporate and integrate this reality, which is I experience depression. I am not unique. That is a very common experience.
Exactly. And I, again, the way you just phrased that is I experience it. It's not who you are. It doesn't define you. It's just something that you experience, like anything else we experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Before we got on this call, one of our conversations, of the many conversations we've had previous, we were talking about people wanting the thing, whatever the thing is, but not wanting the pain that goes with it.
Yep.
And that they think that you had said that they think there's a version of life where there's no pain.
Mm-hmm. Gosh. And don't we all just fall into that trap? I don't want to speak for the universal we, but I'll speak for myself that, there are some times when, I've chosen a very rigorous transformational path where I'm on a leadership team in a coach training program. So I'm always being challenged at this really high level of rigor. I do a lot of therapy. I do a lot of, I just do a lot of work. And there are times where I really think to myself, like, especially when I'm right up against my next breakthrough, or I'm really outside my comfort zone and doing stuff that is super confronting to me, I think to myself, wait, isn't there why did I decide to do this? Wait, leadership.
Where's the easy button?
Wait, can we go back to easy? And just, time and time again, I always remember that the thing that I thought was the easy way was shrinking my life because I was always trying to just avoid pain, and I was shrinking my life and trying to, remove any kinds of, stimulus or responsibilities, commitments, relationships that would cause me to experience pain instead of the path of expanding my capacity to be with pain. Expanding my capacity to trust my inner strength and trust my support systems that I have in place to persevere in the face of it. But I still have those moments, and my clients have those moments, and my peers in the coach training world have those moments of like, wait, isn't there like a world where I'm sitting on a beach drinking a virgin pina colada and nothing's ever wrong and I have all the money in the bank and there are no problems ever?
Yes, where's that version? Well, it just reminded me of two things because I remember having a coach who would say that there's always a breakdown before a breakthrough. Like whenever you're losing your mind, like that is indicative of a breakthrough. This is coming. And the other thing I remember hearing from a different coach was that don't wish for the problem to be smaller, wish that you grow enough to be bigger than the problem.
Delicious. Those are two very delicious coachy things that
I remember.
I'm so into those. I mean, and I love them as, I think that the cool thing about surrounding yourself with coachy people and just a coaching conversation in general, whether or not you even hire a coach. Like if you just surround yourself with people who are kind of into it and are growth minded and dig personal development and transformation, you end up in a situation where you fall in love with breakdowns and you fall in love with the process, because if you experience it enough times overtly and on purpose, then you start to get that like, ugh, I am in the worst shit right now, but I know that means I'm close to something. And I know that I have 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 people in my life that I can turn to. Like, Lori, I have no doubt I could call you up and say, Lori, I'm at the bottom of the well. I feel like absolute shit. I have no idea why I chose to do any of this. Please remind me. And you would be a partner to me in holding the vision and being like, no, Jess, remember? We talked about it on my podcast.
Right.
Breakdowns lead to breakthroughs. You're so close.
And this is exactly why people need coaches and why people come into like my fuck being fine experience is for that courage. Not that you couldn't necessarily find it on your own, but it's not likely that.
Well, and we're so, there's this, I'm really grateful that part of my work on the planet is to remind people that we actually aren't meant to do things alone. Like we're kind of, our culture is very hyper individualistic, and this idea of like, I'm going to muscle through, make enough money, whatever. I'm going to self-care myself. Yeah. I'm going to just take 1 million baths and get 100 massages, and I'm just going to be, I'm going to be great. It's going to be great.
And then I'll be fine.
I'll be fine. I'll be fine. But there's the power of coaching and believing deeply in that we are meant to be interconnected, not codependent, not dependent,
correct,
but interconnected, and rely and depend on one another from choice and from love and equality and partnership, is that we allow so much more expansiveness into our lives. Like there's a humility that comes from saying, I need partnership in my life because I'm a human being and life is better that way. And there's just such a missed opportunity to go into your silo. When people are like, you know what, I'm going to just, for another couple of years, I'm going to do it on my own and just like see what I could do on my own. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And the thing that breaks my heart in it is there's so much stuff that you're not able to see with your 2 eyes alone.
Right.
That with someone else in the conversation with you, you're just going to see so many more possibilities. You're going to be able to go past where you would normally stop alone. Because the place where we stop when we're alone is way earlier than the place you stop when you're hand in hand with someone or locked arms in partnership.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're pulling each other. And think about it when you go and do anything. Like let's say go on vacation and you go somewhere with other people and they see things differently. Like, oh, look at that. Where you weren't looking in that direction. You were looking over here and they're like, oh, look over there. And you share all of that experience with each other. It's the same concept. It's so much more exciting that when you're going somewhere cool, that you go with someone or several others to share the experience, right?
Yes, and I love the posture of how you shared that is just this like empowered choice to bring more richness into your life rather than like, oh, I have to be with people. And Lori, this is I love that we're going in this direction together because I also wanted to share with you that I recently started dating someone. I have a boyfriend.
What?
And I have a boyfriend. I have an actual boyfriend. It's so great. His name is
Congratulations.
Thank you. And it's so funny that we're talking about partnership because I have spent, X years. So I had my fine, right? Like I created my fine. It wasn't that fine. It was a 4-letter word.
It usually
Lori,
never is.
No, it isn't. Lori, I created a fine. It was a fine. And then I broke free of the fine, and I've been on this like messy, like healing journey very much on my own, which it had to be on my own. A lot of the stuff that I did over the years just had to be on my own because a lot of it had to do with just me and my relationship with myself and that whatever. We could go into it. It was delicious, but painful, delicious, great. And it's so fun to be at a place where now, because I feel really solid in all of that piece, I'm like, ooh, now I get to do it with a partner. Oh my God, we're going to have so much fun. And that's such a different place than, 5, 6, 7 years ago, where I would have been like, I hate being alone. Why can't I,
Right.
I am not the only person on the planet who has that experience,
No,
and
not at all. There's a whole world of people having that experience. But now you get to come to this partnership as a whole person, as opposed to someone who is depending on, like Grandma Shirley was telling you to do, depending on the guy.
And my grandmother, she was so sad that when she died that I was single. She really, really did think that it meant that I was like doomed to be sad for the rest of my life. She really was worried about me. But, I think she would be really proud of how conscientious I've been in filling up my own cup and doing this healing work and doing all this, building my business.
Yeah, no doubt she would.
Yeah, she totally would. And that gives me a little I'm getting a little emotional about that. That's so lovely. But
Verklempt.
verklempt. So I have no doubt that she also would like this David character. Also.
How do you know she didn't direct him into your life?
Lori, I love you, and I love you even more. I already loved you, and now you went ahead and made it even more beautiful. I love you so much. Yeah, thank you, Grandma. What I meant to say was, thank you, Grandma Shirley. Thank you. She was like, okay, she's ready. That whole time, that was all a charade from fear. But deep down, I was waiting to send you this particular man.
Yeah.
Sure.
Very.
She's
very
magical
well.
like that. I think that's a fair point.
That's probably what happened. No
That's
doubt.
probably what happened.
Yeah. So now you're choosing using this as an example, you're choosing from a place of making decisions from a place of strength as opposed to a place of fear.
Yes.
Or desperation.
Yep. And I think that one of the signals to me that I am really grounded in that place of strength is when I used to get so pissed when people said that thing of, you have to love yourself before you can love anybody else. I used to lose it. I used to be like, what? Say it to my face. Say it to my face. Like, I don't know.
Say it again.
Say it to my face. I just, for whatever reason, I felt really like that was like an attack. I was like, look, stop. And so I think that where I'm at right now, and look, I'm sure I'm going to have bumps along the way and backslide and do all sorts of manner of things, but I really, that concept doesn't irritate me anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't
like,
trigger you.
It doesn't trigger me, and I also am able to see the both and of like, yeah, it does, in order to be in a healthy partnership where there's like adult fully mature, empowered love, you do need to love yourself and nourish yourself and fill yourself up. Sure, those go hand in hand. And there's no like right way to be in love with someone, like, to have a part, there's no right or wrong. There's no destination you have to get to before you can be experiencing love and giving love. I always felt very dismissed by that phrase that like, oh, I haven't loved anyone because my self-love game is not super hot.
Right. In which case you become the victim again.
Correct. Oh no. Oh, when am I going to be
whole enough? When am I going to have done enough work? When am I going to be like, yeah, I'm not.
Oh, isn't that
I'm
a
not
trap?
good enough yet.
Yes. I love that you said that, because I think the people, yes, you can go into coaching or therapy or, 12-step work or whatever. You can go into any work and still use it against yourself. Like,
right.
You can, our fear brains are super wily and sneaky, and we can take pretty much anything and use it just for the same old bullshit. Like, we can create a whole new status quo with just some, And that's why I really respect the coaches that I work with. I really respect them because they will fire a client. They will say, I see how you're using this, and you're using it to recreate all this bullshit, and I'm not doing that. And sometimes that's the wake up call for someone.
Right.
Like I've had to say to clients, like, hey, who are you making, like, who am I to you? Like, what are you using me for in this game? Because, they might be too scared or unwilling or whatever. For whatever reason, they're not willing to actually open themselves up to the work necessary. So they're still playing some games around things.
Right.
And I have to sometimes bring a lot of like radical, rigorous, tough directness around that so that I don't become yet another person that buys into their bullshit.
Right. That you're helping them become something better than, I don't know if better than, you're helping them become a better version of themselves.
Well,
rather than continuing to tell themselves the whole old story that keeps them small and victimized.
Yeah. And actually, Lori, I love that you hesitated around using the words better than, because I vote to not use that language because it's not that one way of being or looking at the world is better than another. It's just, if you have a vision for your life that is XYZ, you actually have to align who you're being and what you're doing to that in order to get that result. So, so it's not about being a better person. It's about, hey, like, for example, I'll just use myself because I'm whatever. I can speak from my own lived experience.
We're the best examples. Yeah,
we are. I mean, we really are. That's why coaching is so great.
I mean, speaking from your own experience, that's all anybody can do is speak from their own experience.
Oh, hallelujah. And I love that because, sometimes people get up and they talk about how things are and I'm the expert. And coaches are always coming from not knowing because that's our job, is to not know and be curious and to ask. So yeah, the thing I do know about is my own lived experience. And in the example for me, like, I could have repeated the same exact relationship patterns over and over and over again for the rest of my life. And there's actually nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. Would I have experienced pain? Sure. But I'm going to experience pain in this other thing too. So there's nothing actually wrong with it. However, the fact that I have a commitment to myself and a vision to have a life partner and to have children and to do all that cool stuff, that old way of looking at things and behaving and choosing is not going to cut it to bring that forth. And it's delusional to think that I can keep doing that same old stuff and then somehow get to my vision. So if I told you, Lori, hey, my vision is actually I want to be alone. I want to just, stay comfortable. I want to be surrounded by people who are okay with my bullshit and will let me, they'll let me slide they'll accommodate
every time.
They'll accommodate my codependency. They'll accommodate my low self-esteem. They'll accommodate all that shit. I could have done that. And you know what? Maybe I would have had a good time. Like, who knows? I would have had some good times, some bad times. Who knows? But what I just chose to do is say, actually, I want to achieve that experience of myself that is fully tapping into my potential, fully embracing my authentic self, my sensitivity, my calling, my purpose, and create a life that is scary to me. Like, I want to create a vision that actually scares the shit out of me, and I'm going to have to be really brave to continue to choose it over and over again. And it's juicy and painful and joyful and fulfilling. Still pain, to go back to our other conversation. But if you and I really landing on this whole, there's actually not one better there's not one better way to live than something else. Right. That means a lot to me. I think that's important.
Yeah, I love that you are challenging yourself to be the person you need to be to get to that vision that you want to get to.
Yes.
And that is a great place to end our conversation, but not completely end it, because the question that always comes next, what is your hype song? What's the song you listen to when you need to get charged up and enthused and infused with energy?
Let me clear my throat. That's how it goes. It's DJ Cool. It's Let Me Clear My Throat. It's amazing. It's from 1998. Maybe it's from before that, and I just was introduced to it in 1998. It makes me so happy, and all of I'm going to send this podcast to my childhood friends, and they're going to get a kick out of that I chose that song.
Awesome. All right. Well, so if somebody is not your childhood friend and they want to know how to get in touch with you, how would someone do that?
You can visit jesslillycoaching.com, and there is a contact form. Please fill that out. And I offer 45-minute complimentary discovery sessions for folks who want to give coaching a whirl. It is totally, I'm really committed to people understanding the differences, like I said before, the differences between therapy, coaching, and consulting. And so, yeah, hop on there, reach out, and I'll get in touch with you.
Excellent. We'll put a link in the show notes for that. So we'll make it really easy for people to be able to find you, and also a link to your song so they can dance the way you do, or dance in their own style, I guess, probably more likely. Mm-hmm.
Well, Lori, next time I would have to do the dance so they could see really the full picture of what happens when I listen to that song. Yes.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll put a picture of that in the promo stuff, since we're not releasing video right now. But yeah. Okay. Jess, thank you so much for joining me today on Fine is a 4-Letter Word.
Thank you, Lori. It was fun.